Welcome to the Wisdom of Women show. Business is the most powerful, innovative force in the world. And with visionary women leaders at the helm, we can lead in both impact and profit. Today's world needs the wisdom of women in business. This is why we are here to help women grow. Are you already a successful visionary woman founder leading a high impact company? The Wisdom of Women show is designed just for you. We are a community of women founders, investors, and leaders who want to see you rise. Join us as we unlock opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises. The future of business is women. Are you ready? Welcome to the Wisdom of Women show. We are dedicated to amplifying the voice of women in business. A new model of leadership is emerging, and we are here to amplify the voices of women leading the way. Thank you for joining us today as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises by amplifying the voice and wisdom of women. So today, I am so excited to have a wonderful new guest here to talk to us about the important topic of AI. And I am hearing a alarm go off in my new house. So I'm going to pause.
Right.
Pause. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to proceed. If you can't hear it, then they can't hear it. All right. So I'd love to introduce Claire Farwell. Claire is an AI strategist, speaker, and educator dedicated to helping businesses harness the power of artificial intelligence to fuel growth. With a unique blend of expertise spanning industries like automotive, fashion, and technology, Claire is known for turning complex AI concepts into actionable strategies that drive real results. Her workshops on ethical AI practices have empowered teams across the globe to boost productivity by an average of 30%. That's pretty amazing, helping them stay ahead of competition. Trusted by global leaders such as Lufthansa, Accenture, and Swiss Air, Claire's client-centric approach simplifies AI adoption, making it accessible and impactful. Her deep commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and her fight against ageism reflect her belief in AI as a force for positive change. We love this. Whether guiding AI strategy or sharing insights on emerging trends, Claire equips visionary women founders with the knowledge to transform their businesses and lead with innovation. So be sure to get on LinkedIn and sign up for Claire's newsletter, which will help you learn every week about what's happening in AI, and you don't have to go out and learn yourself. You can go straight to her newsletter, and in bite-sized bits, you can get everything you need. So welcome, Claire, to the Wisdom of Women show. We're so happy to have you.
Hi, yeah, no, it's amazing to be here.
Well,
everywhere where we are, everywhere where everybody's from, yeah.
Exactly, right? Gathering from across the globe. You're in Barcelona, I'm in New York, and our listeners are all over the world. So it's pretty cool that we can connect this way.
And we have our cool glasses on today, don't we?
Oh, we do.
Glasses are in.
Yes, glasses are in. If you need readers, let them be cool, right?
Right, exactly.
So we always like to start out. I always like to really turn the wisdom on women around a book that has inspired you. And what's a book by a woman that has inspired your life in some way?
Yeah, you know, I've never really been one to have just like crazy icons or whatever, even growing up, but there were a couple, and they tended to be in the film industry, and one of them is Lauren Bacall. and she she wrote her memoir by myself. And I mean, even without reading it, I would have understood what type of woman that she was, full of grit and ballsy. And she really navigated her way through Hollywood in such an elegant way, but she was very outspoken. She said what she thought, like a true New Yorker as well. I don't even recall where she's from, but I'm just giving that sort of, that analogy there, seeing as you're there and knowing so many incredible people on the East Coast. And I loved her.
Oh,
So yeah.
I adore her too. She is really an inspiration for us all. She's as you said, she's a wonderful avatar for feminine elegance and beauty and grace and grit and permission, right? To be bossy.
She did
right?
her own thing in an era where not many women were. So yeah.
It's really cool. So tell us about you and what you're doing, your passion for AI and what sparked this, and sort of give us a history of your personal journey and how you got to where you are, and why you are so passionate about.
Yeah, and it just came. There are moments that I still go, where am I now and how is this happening? But I think that happens for everybody with AI right now, because it is just everywhere and all around us. And if you haven't quite invited it in yet, it'll be here and the door will be opening soon. But I was really keen on upskilling. I reached a point, that, and I went and I did when I was modeling, and actually in the film industry, I went to live in South Africa, as you do. And I was bored one afternoon, no castings or whatever, in Cape Town. And my friend said, come to the university. So I did. And I thought, goodness, one, it was a beautiful university in Cape Town. And two, I was like, okay, this is religious studies, lecture. And I went to a Catholic convent. I'm like, this is just going to be dreadful. I've had enough of this rammed down my throat as a Protestant as well. Do you know what I mean? It was always like, oh, why, why do I have to do this? And so I really enjoyed this lecture. And I was like, goodness, because it was obviously global and it was more sort of, theology and history and all this sort of stuff. And so then I thought, I want to do a degree. And that was like the first kind of thing when you dive in and you realize that you can just absorb like history of art, and all this just writing pages and pages about paintings, and like, good grief, is this me? And opening up just this sort of thirst for knowledge. And it carried on in, through learning languages. Because I thought I'd learned French and German at school. And then when I lived in Paris as a model, I couldn't even order a sandwich. And I was like, wait a minute, I can write you a postcard. So learning those languages to be able to really prove who I was, because when you're in the fashion industry, you want to, you want to speak your mind. So that's another reason why I learned the languages. And then finally, in the last sort of 5 years, because I'm not going to take you through the whole road, we don't have time. The last 5 years, 6 years has been about upskilling myself. And I went to do an alternative MBA. I found a company that provided that, because it was obviously so much more available without spending so much money and so much time, because I was working. And I loved it so much that I then ended up working for the company, then opening the United Kingdom as a Spanish company, and then talking to so many people about upskilling and why, and all these relationships, these stories about what they wanted to do in these aspirations, whether it be females returning to work, entrepreneurs for the first time, promotions, all this that, that I was helping them on this journey. And selling this program, which I believed in so much. Then I went and I opened up LATAM and the US when it came to the sort of business side of it. Long story short, AI came along. I was asked to help work for a female first community, which was all about emerging tech. And, you know, these startups, it was also to feel us out, but we created quite a community. And then it was like, okay, let's have a leadership program based with some AI. And that's when I had started with the sort of ChatGPT thing, you know, coming out. Obviously, we've had AI for many, many decades, but not that the world knew it through this sort of almost commercial side, which is ChatGPT. You know, of course, in its own right, it's powerful. And I then started really learning about AI tools and started using them. And then so much so they were like, please teach. And that's when, you know, I have taught in my past, but then I thought come January, I'm going to do my own thing. And that's how AI Claire started. And literally within 3 days, I was asked would I start to teach at Accenture, and then it just sort of rolled on, and I haven't really stopped, which is kind of crazy.
It's so cool. You know, might sound like a crazy question, but what does an Accenture or Lufthansa, what do they ask you to teach? Like, what are these big companies specifically?
Absolutely. Well, Accenture was like about 30, 40 people that were all part of their onboarding. So they had this long process, like 3-6 months.
Yeah.
And, you know, even then, which was back at the earlier time, you know, February, March of this year, they had already had some trainings because Julie Sweet, you know, their CEO, and Accenture is all AI forward and, you know, innovators in the space. So, you know, me going in, I was like, well, you know, what are we going to do here? But I think it was, you know, it's like, oh, no pressure. But it was a combination of really inspiring these people, learning with different tools, productivity tools, getting feedback through, you know, what are you doing? What are you learning? You know, what do you want to learn from this? What are your fears? You know, judging, engaging, because it was so early on. Even though some of them had already had you don't don't tell me about the history. I don't want to know any about that. I just want to know like
how do I use it? Right.
But then you have these you know, the personal and the private side of these people, these early adopters with AI that come in and they already have some knowledge. But then you have the companies saying, well, we have restrictions and there's only, you know, you can only have, for example, you know, and I can't really sort of name companies, but we only can use ChatGPT 3.5, you know, they can. And so it's like, so then they almost have to sort of learn a lot outside of work. And then bit by bit, when they get the green light, they want to be ready for it. So there was a lot of weaving around things as well, but learning about workflows, learning and pinpointing, because you got a room when you have you know, one of the Lufthansa group, Lufthansa or Swissair, and you have a room of 50, 60 people, and they're all different levels, and they're all different titles, and all different incredible diverse group of people, which I was so happy about. But you know, they're all in different departments. So we, you know, first off, we all fundamentally always talk about ethics.
Yes.
It's always forgotten. It's always forgotten. For me, I think it's a second chance to get it right. Because, you know, sometimes we have to do things in twos, you know. And I think there's so much labeling that has been going on in the last sort of decade. Which means we're talking about things, which is great. So let's just label everything, please. Let's look at every type of person, every different scenario, label it and give it and train the data sets to be diverse. And then stop as humans labeling it. Let's just get on with it. We trust that we've set, you know, the data set is great. We trust the AI with all the other orchestration and privacy and everything that has to happen. And we can be humans.
Right.
And we can have this balance.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like we got living to do.
Well, and I just want to unpack a little of, because I want to unpack a little of what you're saying, because I'm in a lot of rooms like you where there's people that are just starting to use AI, just starting to even use chat. And, you know, as you start to get in there, and if you start using it, you're going to start to see that, if you ask, if you ask for a picture of to generate a picture of a CEO, it's going to be a man. It's going to be a white man.
Done that test.
Right. And it's going to be salt and pepper hair, right? It's going to have a very specific look. And, and there's, if you asked to show a Black woman presenting in front as a CEO in front of a group, you won't believe how AI will somehow still not put her at the front of the room, still put her in the back and still make her smaller. And the room is small and the people are small. And so it's, again, to your point, it's the data set that we're dealing with. So even if our intentions to use it are to use it without bias, it's packed into what culture is and all the data that it's pulling from. Yeah. And so learning how to move beyond it, and for companies that are developing tools, how they're creating their data sets, and if the founders listening, of course, are using it, it's obviously very important, because otherwise you're going to spit back all that bias in all kinds of ways, right? It's, from medical diagnoses to, yeah. Right. It's just pulling from the data that it has, which is inherently biased. So I'm curious, when you talk to companies like Accenture and you're just sort of warming up and you've got people with different sort of bits in the room, when you think about somebody who's just getting started, right? So I feel like it's our responsibility as founders, particularly, I'm going to say as women, for us to do our fair bit every day to just dip our toe in AI, because we don't want it to speed ahead without us. And it is like, what in my experience is, it's like when I start talking to my husband, who's just getting to know this, for example, he can't imagine what I'm talking about when I tell him all the things I do with it, because it's like trying to tell a 5-year-old who's just learned who's barely learning to count, how to do abstract math. You just, it's something you need to start, and then you start to imagine all the possibilities that are connected to it. Yeah. So maybe, Claire, I'd like to maybe talk at 3 levels to the audience about kind of some places to begin if you're really sort of just getting started, and then just speak to somebody who's a little more advanced, maybe somebody like me, and then talk to somebody who's really really advanced and is doing really cool things, and what kinds of things you are suggesting and seeing. So maybe speaking a little bit to those 3 audiences.
I think, yeah, when you definitely, start out, it's very much looking, and it's the same for everybody really, but they've, hopefully they've taken this first step, right? Is to really look at, those areas where you have repetition, where you have the mundane tasks, where it can be automated. And
can you give us a couple of just like very specific examples? Just a couple.
Yeah. So let's say that, I don't know, there's an email campaign or a sales campaign or a direct message that, one likes to be original and have a different voice and say something different every time. But sometimes it's just something that you have thought about. Maybe you have some assistance with ChatGPT or a Claude, whichever LLM or, / chatbot, whatever you want to call it, that you use. And you've got this little snippet, and you can use a tool like Magical, for example, which literally does what it says. You can have a trigger. And so if you were to just sort of, you got to be careful the trigger that it's very simple to set up. But if you were to just say, have a trigger that's, I don't know, whatever it may be, one word and a number or whatever it is, that every time you put that trigger, then that blurb would come up, and you can do that with your email, and you can do that, inside any of your email, Outlook, whatever, and you can do it inside LinkedIn, for example. So that's just a tiny little, very simple thing. And then something which, has blown my mind, and everybody's that I've ever shown, it's like a party trick, is the boring, mundane task, obviously, of creating presentations. Everybody has to do presentations, whether it's a pitch deck or it's a sales brochure or it's I don't know, whatever it may be. It generally is just, it's just the hard labor of creating a presentation. Well, there is a tool called Gamma, Gamma, and I can't understand why everybody in the world doesn't know about this tool, which is why I'm reminded, that it's like, this is a tool that's been around actually for a year and a half or so. I mean, it's one of the first, and I was just blown away. And it's getting better and better, but in its simplicity, it is extraordinary. You literally, if you haven't got a clue of what type of presentation you want to do, you can get some sort of ideas, or you can actually copy and paste all your ideas, and it'll say, how many slides do you want to do? How many cards? How many slides? So you can say 6, and then you choose the color format. You can choose and literally before you can make a cup of tea, you have this complete presentation, and it's just crazy.
Right. Well, and then you
tweak
have
it.
something to start with, right? And it's
you've got something to start with. You almost have something to finish with.
Yeah.
Isn't
it's amazing, right? So you could take articles that you've been researching together, and you could put together, all the pieces and parts, and what your message is, and what the, and you could have
a field day with it. I know that's what you're going to do when you leave. You're going to just say, what a presentation. I had to do a keynote speech, I don't know, in the week. And I was like, and I remember showing it to somebody else in one of the workshops, and they're like, oh, for goodness sakes, all those hours I've wasted. So yeah, it's definitely worth a look.
Wonderful. So
that's the beginners.
That's the beginner. And you just recommended 2 tools to us. Magical.
Yes.
And Gamma. Okay. Awesome.
And I would say also for beginners, and for everybody, like just baby steps. Take one tool. Maybe you can even take 2 tools like those in this, that I've mentioned right now, providing that you have a reason to use them.
Yes.
And then go and experiment with them. Don't just try and, put it everywhere, and that just take your time with it. And really think about it, because as fast as it's created, you need to sort of do the opposite and stop and, think about it. Think about what the tool is as far as privacy goes. Always look to see about the company and your data and privacy. That's really important. And a prompting framework, because we can go in and we can be all over the shop. Now, ChatGPT 4 unpaid is incredible, obviously, which is, the free version. But having some sort of a prompt framework to start with is always good, to be able to just keep you in line. And then as you grow and you practice, so there's different prompting frameworks that would be for beginners and intermediate and advanced. That would obviously be something to go all across those 3 areas. I think once you move into intermediate, because we'll be here all day otherwise, once you move into intermediate, you're looking at, again, those intermediate prompting techniques. You're looking at maybe storing prompts. You have prompts that you go to a lot in ChatGPT. There's different tools that you can bring in, but you can rename things, you can delete things, you can have an organization, a project management organization hub, and Notion. If you are able, as a founder or an entrepreneur, solopreneur, and able to choose these tools yourself, because sometimes companies, the bigger the companies, they already have things decided. Maybe you can convince them to use something else, but that's another thing. So Notion is excellent for really just pocketing and putting these different hubs. And again, there's a free version in there. And be warned.
This is cool. So this is like, so I'm curious about this, because I have, like, on a Google sheet, I have all my prompts.
Yes.
And then I have like a library of, like, here, for my business, for example, I have, here's my core purpose, here's our values, here's our vision, here's our position statement, here's my audience, here are our 3 core needs, here are 3 core benefits, so I have them all. And then I kind of I have a series of prompts where I insert into
Sure.
prompts. Is Notion help with that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that is being organized is great. It doesn't matter what you use, you're organized. That's a great start. But there are better ways of doing it. But then
Yes.
all different, and there are other areas depending on which that you want to do. But I like Notion because you can see like everything on one page.
I
And
love
so,
that.
I have my content planner, and then I have, all the different material, and, you know, and then I have a hub for like ethics and then all the tools, and just give that a go. I would say Notion all across the board. And you can then have the links to those Google Docs in there, and PDFs and things like that. What else would I say as far as a GPT when you're into more of the intermediate? I would say with the paid ChatGPT 4.0, you create GPTs, and it's very much just once you understand why you go in and what you're doing, content creation, or maybe you're doing a newsletter, or time, whatever it is, then you can create a GPT, and it's very simple. Give it a name and feed it with different files of information, so that when you put the @, it will come up as a GPT when you put the @ into the space
Oh,
bar, and you will pull it up. I mean, I could be here till the cows come home, but GPTs is a really great one. I like to teach about that as well. Now we have ChatGPT and Canvas, which is crazy. If
yes, I've seen
you've
this. I don't
been
know what that is. Yeah,
well, you've got to try that if you've got the ChatGPT 4 paid version.
I do. Yes.
Really, you just will choose from the drop down ChatGPT plus Canvas. You should have it,
Yes.
and you'll be able to edit right inside the area and pull onto the text, as well as just doing all of these different back and forth. It's really hard to describe. Shame on me, but you need to try it.
No, I understand. I will try it
Yeah.
because, and that's the thing about it. It's hard to explain it. You have to,
Well,
all these tools.
it's a thought partner. You can obviously use it for whatever experience you want to give that that document you're doing, or the help that you're getting from if it's a career counselor and you've got a CV there, and you're putting in like the role that you're going up for, or you're looking for people to work with you, and you want to put out like a great sort of job posting.
Yes.
The help that you can get inside there is little hints of what's going to happen with sort of agents and things that are actually going to be sort of working and doing themselves. That brings me to the intermediate area, or the more in the advanced, which would be more automations. Little intermediate things that can be done with like Zapier Central, which can, for example, feed different emails into different areas. But then it gets sort of more complicated. There are more tools like Make that can start doing some more sort of in-depth automations, and like Google Gemini or whatever it is. But we'll leave the advanced sort of thing out of it a little bit. But I would say that it's all about more automations and reporting, all that sort of thing, really, that would move into that area.
Bringing all that data together it's so hard.
Yeah, and then like it's exactly. I mean, that's when you start feeding, and having your own sort of in-house LLM and building that, which then that gets more into a more technical area for me as well. So I would normally, come in with somebody else and let them take that part. But for me, the most important thing is really about the ethical side of things.
Yes.
And
Tell
these
us,
and the
yeah,
tools and insights.
tell us more about the piece of the ethics and how the advice that you would give to all of us as we're, I'm thinking about, for example, any founder who's not aware of all the different ways you can source leads and create, whole automated channels for communication and so forth to potential leads and to customers, and using voice and all kinds of things to do things that humans have typically done. You can do a lot of those things, and you should be aware that you can do a lot of those things, but there's a lot that is sort of like, well, how is this okay? And where are there going to be problems? So maybe speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
right?
yeah, I think, that I will probably not tell you too different than anybody else, but really it's all about, sitting down and working out what that looks like. First off, right? It's really setting some guidelines, some rules, that the data is obviously a diverse data set, that it is transparent. That transparency means that it's understandable for everybody to understand. It has to be put in a language that is non-technical, for everybody to understand, what it is and what is needed. Where do you source the data from? It's a great one as far as advertising and creating images. What are the stipulations? And I think you've got to go department by department, and you've really got to sort of sit down and put in some stipulations and some policies. And that's the reflection of what is going on today, which is we are just everything up in the air. I mean, if you look at California and the different states around, obviously the US, there are, depending on, like California, for example, was very much about, it's all about innovation and tech. And so obviously when Newsom was trying to sort of, pass, it was vetoed because, it's going to take a while for this to sort out as far as whether, it's in the tax interest to keep innovating or we're going to stop it. And, it's just going to be a while with GDPR and in Europe. Just the simple case or the dreadful case of a student in Massachusetts that was taken off the honorary roll because he apparently cheated and didn't follow the guidelines in the school. Well, the guidelines of the AI in the school in Massachusetts, it's still a work in progress, and it wasn't very clear what the AI policy at the school was, and yet he's now, going to miss out on going to these incredible universities. So it's just everywhere. So we have to be aware that it's balls in the air, literally juggling, and nothing is set in stone. But every company, every person has to sit down and really try and start thinking about what works for them and what that guideline is.
Mm-hmm. Where you can use it, where you can't, what your data sets are, what's,
exactly.
How far you can,
Yeah, like HR, in HR, for example, that's why I say it's got to go department by department.
Right. Right.
You bring me into Aegis, and it's like
yes. I wanted to know more about that actually.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of stating the obvious, but it's like, everybody should have the chance to do a job if they have the skills that are needed, and yet bias is there before they get the chance. And it's got to be, rather than, we have to again train the AI, train it so that if you are going to go and put, use and trust the machine to go out and find, well, you have to do blindly. Like, why do we have to have, oh, if it's a female of 55 or no, or it's like just blindly, just do this person have, and there we need to also like think about, well, what are more soft skills? Obviously, things are changing with AI, do they have AI? But we're so prejudiced, whether it be too young or older, and we'll go for the one in the middle. It's just like, give everybody the chance. People are living longer. So,
Right.
you know, the percentage of people over the age of 50 in
Yes.
the next
Yes.
5 years is going to be like 50%. And that's that, you know, depending on which country you're talking about, very much in the UK and in Spain, for example. I can't give you the precise numbers in the US, it's not that far off.
Mhm. Well, and so it reminds me of two things. One is I was listening to a podcast recently on AI, and you made the point. It's around screening for people for roles, and you even have to be careful with names, right? Because a name
Sometimes, you know, a name would be associated, yeah.
with a gender or with
Absolutely.
a background, a culture, and
Yeah.
because our learning models, our language is inherently going to have a particular, we usually go with names that say are John or Peter, there's going to be the system is going to like John or Peter better. And
Yeah.
and you were saying too about that men have a tendency to put more facts and details, whereas women don't. And so again, it's going to screen for those ones that are really specifically
Yeah.
more like increased sales by 75%, versus things that are more collaborative, right? And
It has
less.
to be a diverse culture, a diverse
Yes.
company, in order
Yes.
to be able to put the diversity into, for
Yes.
example, screening. You know, that is why we need, for that innovation to move forward and for things to go right, it comes back to it. It's like, it might take a bit of time, but we need to do it that way. And, you know,
Yeah.
seems
It's
clear.
really important. And it's like you said, it's actually our chance to do it again, right?
It's our second chance because we've
Right.
fucked up, excuse my French. It's
Totally.
not a priority, you know, and make it a priority with AI. If you want to have an AI point person, call it an AI officer slash, you know, ethics. They have to have that qualification and governance that has to be wrapped up. You can't have one without the other. You know,
Right.
that's what we should be training, you know, for or looking for in an AI pinpoint person.
Right. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, and to your point about ageism and timing with, with AI and whatever, I don't have the source, so I can't reveal the source. But it was again, I was either reading an article or listening to a podcast, and somebody had done a study to look at the usage and accuracy of chat, right, and how by gender, by age, by different ways of looking at it. And a surprising piece that came out of this data was that people over 50 are actually really good at chat. They're more so than, a little bit younger. And there was this sort of like idea that because if you're good at managing and asking for what you need and being articulate about, here's the result I'm looking for, right? I'm a good manager. I'm good at that kind of thing. You're going to be better at
Mhm.
some of these systems. And so I only mention it here because I think it's like there's no reason to believe that because we're a little bit older, some of us, that
Yeah,
we can't learn it and that it's not going to be
yesterday, that's a
easy.
very good point though. Yeah, right. Because the experience that you have, and really it is about experience, right? And that doesn't mean that a younger person can't be experienced either,
No,
right?
correct,
Experience
correct.
is wrapped up in different packages. But the repetition of experience, let's say, can make it come so much easier, perhaps, and
Yes.
therefore have, you know, comes with more confidence. And, you know, again, that can be, God willing, there are more, you know, youthful people that are that way as well. I know that I've got a couple of daughters that would, you know, push everybody out of the way to sort of move through. So, I think
Yes,
that
yes.
it is reflective of, sort of that. And yesterday when I was, I think it was just yesterday, for goodness sakes, when I was speaking at this Age Equity Forum, it was just incredible, the people that were there talking about just, like the statistics of, people up right into 70s, 80s, that it's nothing to do with cognitive failure. There is no such thing. So, just the neuroscience, a perspective of that, and how just things just have to be, they have to be changed, because, it's so, I don't know, it's just gone so far. And you look at it and you go like, why can't I, say how old I am? Or, and then we had somebody that was talking about wonderful Claudia, what was her name? Claudia Iacovani or something, a beautiful Italian woman. And she was just talking about, obviously, the bias in media. And that was fabulous, because, from the film industry to obviously advertising and branding, it was fantastic. We should definitely, I'm going to have a coffee chat with her in the next few weeks. We should definitely talk to her, because it's fabulous, as you can imagine. Everything that, even, obviously as women, that, when you look in the mirror and, you see the wrinkles and that it's just like, it's okay. I deserve them. I earned them. Right.
Totally, totally.
Physically. Oh yeah. So amazing.
Well, because Claire, we get better and better,
We do.
right? And it's
We
true for
inside.
everybody, right? We do. We just ripen, and we have so much to offer, all of us, as we, and I'm referring to everyone, like we really do. So what do you see on the horizon? Like I don't, like I'm my mind doesn't have a clear picture of where all this goes and what it looks like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But it feels intuitively like things are really happening and things are evolving and changing. And the world will be different, transformed. And hopefully we'll be mindful, as you've suggested to us, to keep things so we don't, create a dystopia. But what are you seeing? What do you see as like 3 years, 5 years out, 10 years out? What's the world look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a responsibility to sort of even think, that what anybody would want my opinion on it. But I like to think that of balance. Um, we have gotten to a place where our days are so full, and a
Yes,
little too much.
totally.
So being able to just have automation, have the help, so that we can have that work-life balance. And if you look at everything that's been sort of moving in that direction, which brings me to, again, something we was talked about yesterday, which was retirement. I mean, like, what does that even mean? Before it was, you're born, you work, you retire, you die. And it's like, well, what about, having a great work-life balance now? How do I live by my eigahi, the Japanese term of, looking at things that make me happy, how, etc. How do I get that? And I think that, with everything that's happened with pandemic and the data that was taken from the pandemic and the time that we've sort of had in that period, I believe that it will be much more balanced. I believe that there will be more focus on, if we've still got the planet, more focus on sustainability, obviously the environment, the healthcare. I'm so passionate about healthcare, coming
Me
from
too.
having had cancer, myself 14 years ago, with my own little story. It's like, for God's sakes, enough already. Just, fix it, because there's so much of that can be done. So put it all in there and I believe that the quality of life will be better.
We can use it for all of these types of things. And what do you say to the world that says, well, then nobody's going to have a job? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, 50 million jobs, jobs haven't even been created yet, right?
Yes.
So by like 2030, there's like 50 million, up to 15 million jobs that AI is actually going to be creating, and about 2.4 million jobs that we're actually going to lose. So,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
great data.
well, it's yes. And so it's, it's really about, yes, some industries more than other, obviously, customer service or whatever it may be, they're going to, in manufacturing, there are going to be more areas where you're going to lose them, but there's jobs that haven't been created as well. So,
I love that.
and I think that, yeah, I think we're going to be more human, more ourselves. Right now it's like, well, that could write it for me, or, but, so this still sort of like, hang on a minute, calm down,
Yes.
and it will get cleverer. The policies will get stronger so that, the artists will be happy,
Yes.
because their work will be protected, and yet art will be available, and people will be able to be more creative that had never even dreamt about it before. So we're evening out, and hope that balance will be there. That's what I see. We can be more human and love the machine.
I love that. Well, and that's what we need to be talking about, right? Rather than the scary, possibilities. Let's pipe in what is possible and how we can use this to better our society and our health and culture and environment, right? Because to me, business is the most innovative, force in the world. That I believe that. Like, you have NGOs and you have a government and they do what they do, but the new ideas and the trailblazers can go and do that. Founders and businesses creating ideas, and this is the time. Like it's like an opportunity for us all to like figure out, is it cancer? Is it something to do with carbon? Is it creating plastics that quickly decompose? I mean, what is it, right? Is it
Yeah.
right? Ozone problems, like all the things, like this is our chance. And
even education, starting education younger, personalizing it for children,
different learners, right?
different learners. Yeah, exactly, different learners.
Right. And the neurology, right? Being able to sort of match your neurology, right? Because none of us are real, like just straight across the board average.
Thank goodness.
Right? None of us are.
Goodness.
So I have one more question. Well, two more questions. First is, tell me about your background.
Oh.
What's the background? Looks like it's probably identity. Yes.
You literally mean my background. I was going to say, because we haven't got time for the
No, I literally, yes.
No, this is just
your screen's
AI. This is just AI Claire. This is my my subconscious, not my alter ego. No, this is my AI Claire. That's basically, I don't know, my avatar, if you like.
I love it. I love it. And so what would be a final piece of wisdom that you would like to offer to us all, to founders creating visionary companies? What would you want to offer us?
Well, there are always going to be moments of doubt, because we are female and we are human, and it's okay. It's okay, because, we don't like to talk about those things, and then we get reminded. Like I got reminded today of, somebody just writing out all these 50 females, in AI that are making a difference and doing this, that, and the other. And it's, and I was just like, wow, that person didn't have to do that, so we have little reminders, and to be grateful. I set this reminder. I have like, I don't know what is it, 7 p.m. every night. I started doing it, that I had take 5 minutes. Of course, I'll probably be in a restaurant, or, if I was in the States, I'd be in a restaurant. In Spain, I wouldn't be at a restaurant at 7
o'clock. Yeah.
Right. Translation. And it's just like, it's 5 minutes just to sort of stop and ask myself, what was I grateful for today? And it just sounds like so, oh, come on. But actually, because I was like, I would like to stop and be grateful every day, but I don't have time. Like, how am I going to have time? So I'll set an alarm, and then I write it in what I was grateful for that day. So there you go. Maybe there's something.
I love that. No, I do love that. And when you think about it too, what is really a better feeling than feeling gratitude? Feeling
Yeah,
that
well, it's
less.
to foster the positivity as well, and to, again, stop as a founder and go, well, I had this today that I was grateful for, when maybe a doubt, or, you get in your own way. So,
Oh yeah, a shitstorm happened, but I'm still okay. But I'm still okay. And I always tell my team whenever we're like facing something, or we realize that we're doing something really not good that we need to fix. It's like, but look at all the things we are doing right. And we're okay. We're okay. Everything is okay, right?
Yes.
It's okay. It was like this all along, and it was broken, and we didn't know, and now we know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Claire, it has been just a pleasure. You are a brilliant fresh air to us all. And I really am tethered by this vision of creating a better world, leveraging AI, and really piping that message into all the conversations that we have. And I think, I'm thinking also about the wonderful tools that you offered to us today, Magical and Gamma and Notion.
And there's so many other tools that we could be here.
Yes. So we go to LinkedIn, and we'll have in the show notes below your LinkedIn, and you have a newsletter, so you can subscribe there. And I'm going to provide a link directly to the newsletter as well.
Okay.
And, I just, for me personally, I'm grateful for your time that you spend to share this, to share with us today, but also of your newsletter, so we can all learn from you, so I don't have to do all the work myself. And we can, kind of grow together. So it's wonderful. It's great. So thank you for joining us today on the Wisdom of Women show. Thank you for illuminating the path to unlocking opportunities for growth and prosperity for women-led enterprises. We value your experience and your wisdom, Claire. Mm-hmm. And the world is made better by women-led business. So let's all go make the world a better place. Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And
is your business ready to accelerate? Take the Business Acceleration Readiness Assessment today and find out now at www.aforceforgood.biz/quiz. Take the 5-minute assessment and you will receive an instant response on the 4 essential areas of alignment needed for business growth. You will also receive 4 free tools specific to your situation to help you and your team accelerate success right away. Go to www.aforceforgood.biz/quiz and find out what you can do to accelerate, impact, scale, and profit today.